Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't really have like a name for this or anything, so I don't really know how to intro it, but I'll try my best.
You can add one in later, right?
Yeah, edits lane. Yeah,
That
so
could be your intro.
that will probably be the intro. Yeah, maybe that is just the intro. But anyway, welcome to anybody watching. I'm here with the Aui2000, the fabled Curtis himself, now a two-time TI champion. It was the second one sweeter than the first. Well, let's be honest. The second ring
I
a
mean,
little
it
heavier,
was
or
it was more enjoyable after, you know?
oh,
Didn't get
the
kicked right away. That
yeah,
was a good
yeah.
feeling.
I mean, you seemed pretty happy at the after party. You were very jovial, very good spirits, a little inebriated,
I don't remember seeing you at the after party.
but a little more inebriated, maybe, But I think it says something whenever players win a second TI, but also Dota's a game of up and downs, and I think you had a decent period in there. I mean, it's 6 years from the first one to the second one, right? And I think a lot of Dota comes down to history and people learning from what people have done before and iterating on it. So for me, at least, it was super cool to see someone who I think everybody in the scene respects a lot in terms of their Dota knowledge and understanding, like come back to the top of TI after a decent hiatus, right? And so I don't know, was that like was that something you expected? I mean, obviously everybody works towards going back to TI, and to some degree they always believe in themselves they can win. But there was also a decent period there where you were playing on Arkosh at one point, and to go from
Yeah.
Arkosh to TI champions in a year, that's like a pretty big rise. Was it as crazy as it seemed from an external perspective?
No, it was for sure crazy. I think a lot of it was when COVID hit, I lost a lot of motivation to keep playing. So I was looking for things that would keep me engaged.
Hmm.
And I think that was getting a bit more into the broadcasting side. Playing on Arkosh sort of came out of that because honestly, for me, working talent, there wasn't enough things to do to keep me engaged. And
Hmm.
then even after working with Arkosh and doing talent work, I wanted to go back to coaching a team because I thought that was a lot more rewarding. And I obviously you'd never really expect to, you go coach a team and they just go win TI. It's sort of that's the dream. But when I joined a team, like I could already tell like these players were insanely good. And if we kept up our hard work and got our stuff together, then we would always be like in contention for tournament wins, which is I think where you want any team at.
How did the leadership on Tundra develop? Because from my perspective, you have Snaking as captain, and I've played with Snay. You've worked with Snay before. I mean, this goes back to bottom days, right? And this is like a 10-year reunion. I think he has changed a lot, and I think you've also probably changed a lot in terms of leadership. And I'm curious how you guys got people to buy in to the core concept of the team. So I think every team has some core ideas in terms of how they want to play, how the leadership functions, how the natural hierarchy of a team works in terms of people contributing, right? And so I'm curious how that came to fruition in terms of you two guys, or there were other leadership aspects, or what that looked like on the Tundra process.
Well, I think our leadership structure is definitely a lot more flat than most other teams.
Hmm.
I think that I think Snaking throughout his entire career, he's someone that has always been seen as someone who works really hard, who has really good intentions, but sometimes he doesn't execute them as well as he would hope to. And that creates like some friction with what he's saying or what he's trying to do. But on the team, I think there's a very good like we came to a very good mutual understanding of each other's as humans. We would try to like make sure that we're examining other people's intentions rather than just their actions, because sometimes a lot of things can get lost in translation. I think it was a pretty big role for me to like try to be that bridge between players and between snaking and the team, where like guys like you guys should understand by now. Like they played for a while before I came on the team, but like snaking is super hard work. Everything he's doing, even how he's acting, is like for the good of the team. And once it goes long enough where like this guy is like, oh, you just lost a game, but he's trying to pick everyone up, and you understand like, yo, this guy's he really has it. Um, he's really trying his best for the team. You start to develop this mutual respect where you're like, okay, guys, let's back this guy up. We know he's just trying to win. Everything's coming together, and like it feels good when he's trying to ride a team. The team had a lot of other leadership aspects to it as well. I think Saxa and Neda, they actually Neda in particular, he does a lot of leadership stuff on the team. It's more subtle, but like he's the one who will message the other players the most, I think. Probably even
Hmm.
more than me. and try to like get these ideas and talk to them and talk to them about item builds and just having the knowledge that, and it's the same for Skinner and Nine. Like we would all talk to each other a lot, and having this knowledge that we're all unified, working towards a goal, made it so that I don't think we needed like this authoritarian leadership figure that most people associate with like some puppy or Kuroki.
I mean, was the team
And
overall pretty democratic, like going into even the later stages of TI? Because I think a lot of
yeah,
teams tend to shift more towards like an authoritarian archetype the deeper the tournament goes in order to like streamline and simplify everybody's ideas.
it was pretty democratic. I think we had some conversations after Arlington about like how much we wanted people like with what role each player should have in terms of preparation and leadership. So, for example, at Arlington, I think Skidder was trying to do too much, even though he's the carry player. Like he has to focus on his own game. So
Right.
he scaled back a bit, but overall, like he still contributed a lot. Like whenever we had a question regarding any character heroes or how we want to play a game that involved this hero, he would be part of that conversation. He just wouldn't be a part of the conversation when it's like, oh, supports are doing this, and because he wasn't really required for that, it would just add to it. I don't think it became more authoritarian as TI went on.
Something else I was curious about you guys with your team is like you guys played at Arlington and it went really bad, I think, for in terms of your guys' standards and people's expectation. Maybe you had a bit of target on your guys' back too. Like I thought you guys were going to do very well at that tournament. I think everybody views you guys as like a top European team, which is a top region, and therefore expectations are always at a baseline pretty high. I was curious how you guys juggled like everybody having democratic input. You're going to try a bunch of these ideas. You're going to iterate on. You're going to play them in scrims. Maybe you play them at Arlington and you lose, right? I'm very curious as to like how you guys actually develop the point to get there. What do you keep? What do you throw out? And how do you determine what to keep and throw out?
So I think before I answer that question, I have to talk about like objectivity in Dota
Mhm.
because it's very hard to know the reasons why you're winning and losing because your sample size will be very low and there's a like Dota's just such a complicated game that there's so many factors that go into why you won or lost a game. So the thing about Arlington for us was that we won the EU DPC to qualify for Arlington. That DPC was really long, right? That season DPCs were 7 weeks,
Yeah.
6 weeks, but we have like you boot camp before it. After that, we went to the Riyadh tournament with the Hawk, and then we went straight into boot camp for the Arlington Major, and then we went to the Arlington Major, which was like over 2 months of on the road together. And I think
Yeah.
we were able to identify that, guys, we should not read too much into this tournament and lose all our good ideas. Like we had multiple conversations about making sure we keep what we thought was good. Like don't let this one result affect how you're thinking about the game. And we realized that like we're just sort of burnt out. Like when we look at the Arlington Major, I think the main reason we lost that term was people were burnt out and just played bad. Like there
Hmm.
wasn't some like communication breakdown. There wasn't like some strategy breakdown really from our point of view. We just the mistakes that happen are mistakes that you wouldn't expect the players wouldn't expect of themselves in a normal time. But
Hmm.
it was just a rough one. And that happens. Most of how people develop ideas in Dota now, because it's so hard to objectively determine what's right and wrong, is you just have to play it as much as you can and get as many data points as you can. So
Hmm.
the thing that I like about this team the most is that everyone is so damn hardworking. They play so many pubs, and when they have an idea, they will spam the hero
Hmm.
and see like this is what the hero happens with the hero. And we almost never. There's the only exception is sort of like Nine's hero pool, but for the other players, we don't play any heroes that we haven't really practiced. We think that it's like wasting the scrim time, the team's time. Like everyone has a really high valuation on full team time. So all the heroes that we pick in scrims will be practiced in pubs, which will give us more data points, and the scrims will add to that, and then we can come up with some sort of cohesive idea. And I think generally in Dota, if stuff is working really well in pubs, and like you can sort of try to dig into why it's working, it's going to work in scrims, and it's going to work in officials.
Are those like hard rules you guys set out? Are you like, was there a certain point you're just, all right, we're not scrimming with these heroes unless people have played 20x games,
I
30x
think
games?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person, and it's more of like an individual conversation with like me and them about like when they feel a hero is ready. But for sure, we won't go into scrims and just pick heroes like, guys, I saw someone else play this hero. I want to try it. in my opinion, that's just a waste of time because you'll learn more. Like pub time is a lot more efficient than scrim time for learning your individual hero because you'll get to play different matchups 2 or 3 times. If you scrimmed a hero for the first time without any idea about matchups, you're just playing to the worst counter picks you've seen in your life. You won't
Mhm.
even know the purpose of your hero. You won't be able to make calls. So I think on our team, it's like to varying levels. I think in particular, I think Skitter and Netta, they like to spam the heroes a lot before they play them in scrims. Snaking and Nine are the most flexible, and Saksa's like he's somewhere in the middle, but generally, to be honest, Saksa sort of just calls his own picks on this team. Like we'll say like maybe we need something else, but generally it's just him saying like this is what I want. We're like, okay, do your thing, man.
Yeah, he just likes to play tiny and toss people in every game. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it.
he's just sometimes he'll be like, today I want to play Hoodwink. Or like, cool, cool, you're playing Hoodwink.
I mean,
And sometimes we'll even ask him like, oh, what do you need to make your hero work? You know,
sure.
because that's just how Sax is.
And then you just have 9 somewhere in there who's, I'll just play Coddle or Wyvern or Spear Breaker mid and
Yeah,
pulls it out of nowhere.
like for example, we played like some Clockwork in the DPC.
Mhm.
He played like 2 pubs on it. He said the hero was worse garbage, and then and he's like, "Yo, give me Clockwork," and then it was really good.
So he likes playing the garbage. That's one way to think
Yeah,
about
he
it.
likes playing the garbage. I think there's some other times he's like, "Guys, give me Venge mid."
Mm.
We didn't play that in officials.
Do you actually think there's sometimes some benefit to players in maybe high stress situations or like when the light's on them, they kind of put themselves in a position where they feel as if there isn't the pressure because they're doing something unconventional or unorthodox. Like it takes me back almost to, I mean, we were on, or we both were on iterations of that EG with Sumail,
Mhm.
and I feel like Sumail at certain times would like ask for a matchup he knew was unfavored because then in his mind it was like even less pressure. Not that he ever had pressure on him, but it was like, I'm gonna destroy this guy's razor with an ember or something that nobody should ever be doing, right? And I feel like sometimes 9 almost does that in a way. Like he'll pick some clock, he'll pick some melee hero into a matchup that he knows is going to be rough. He'll play from behind. Obviously, Dota is a multifaceted game now. Playing from behind isn't as debilitating as it used to be. But I almost feel like it's a tool some of these guys use to shift the spotlight off them a little bit. Is that a factor you guys encounter?
I'm not too sure if it's thought about in that particular way. I think a lot of it for us is that when you play these high stake competitive games, oftentimes you can lose sight of like why you love Dota or what makes a game fun. And I think
Mm,
like when you're having fun, you don't feel any pressure, basically. You're just enjoying yourself.
sure.
So like for Nine, I remember like we hadn't played Spearbreaker in a long time. I think he just busted it out versus like maybe in the group stage, maybe versus OG. I know we played it for sure in playoffs versus OG. I'm not sure if we played it before that. I think after that game, he just said, "Yo, that was the most fun I've had in Dota," and,
I
and it
mean,
was good. Like he was just feeling free.
it looks
Sometimes it
pretty
leads to you
fun.
sort of running in and dying, but he was for sure having fun.
Yeah, it was a page out of Zhao 8's book from that tournament with the mid breaker, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people just feel a certain thing. I do feel like a
Mhm.
lot of those picks still went back to what you guys were trying to get out of the role or how it functioned in your team. And I feel like if you have that background, it makes the unconventionality a lot more comfortable. And so I feel like when you're a team that has that robustness, it gets to a point where those unconventional picks just become like free.
Yeah, for sure. I think OG actually forgot how to play in Spearbreaker. They didn't buy single use or anything. It's just running around like.
Yeah, it's
But I mean, Nine's just a very versatile player because we'll also play some like guys. I play OD, I play Arc Warden, I buy Midas. See you in 20 minutes. So I think a lot of the credit also goes to the rest of the players for being able to adjust around that.
mhm,
But I think more than like each player having a specific role on Tundra and like what they need to do, we understand that there are certain things that we need to do in Dota, right? And luckily we have the players that can sort of adjust. Like if Nine's playing an OD or Arc Warden, you probably won't see Skitter on a Spectre.
mhm.
Like you'll probably see him on a hero that sort of covers for his weaknesses so we can enable each other's ideas.
You guys arguably had the most dominant run in the history of internationals from a statistics standpoint. You had like over 80% win rate. You only dropped, I think, 3 or 4 games total. You had an upper bracket clean run into a 3-0 grand final. Basically never happened outside of like the Wings run where they played like game 1 Pudge Techies, which,
Yeah.
maybe that counts, maybe it doesn't. But basically from all the stats side, you guys had the most dominant TI run ever. And I was curious if you felt like some of these ideas you guys developed ever got challenged? Like, were there matches or teams where some of these things were attempted to be broken? I think people started to catch on, for example, in Grand Final Secret. Like, at a certain point, Puppy picks the Naga, right? He's trying to deal with the map pressure, deal with the lane pressure that you guys are obviously exploiting, but it's too little too late. Did anybody challenge you guys at all on this stuff? Like, from an internal perspective?
Honestly, I think this is one of the reasons why we think we shouldn't like read too much off this TI win. Like we've had internal discussions about like guys don't get cocky. Like next game they're gonna have like every single time we won a game in the main stage, it felt pretty easy. Like everything went according to plan. And I think Ned in particular was really good about saying, guys, they had a bad draft. Next game's gonna be harder. Don't get cocky. Don't lose focus. But the hard drafts never came.
There never was a harder.
There's never a hard draft. I felt like in this TI, and I'm not too sure why that is. Like there was like a full 5-day break, so we thought people were gonna try to catch up to us.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe it was weird. It was honestly really weird. This TI. Doom was permabanned for us, but maybe teams should have at least tried to play it like in a 5-day break.
Mm-hmm.
But the hero was like. I think it's like 46% pubs, like 49 at TI outside of our playing it. So maybe people just like they didn't think the hero was good for them. It's just only good for us. I'm not sure. It's really weird. Hero got buffed in the patch too, so
I mean, there's always weird things like that at TI, right? Because people get stuck in these like ideas channels that they think are going to be dominant, and you kind of have to commit at a certain point. Was there almost a part of you guys in the team where it's like every day you keep playing, you keep winning, and you're thinking, if one day we lose a series and this stuff starts to like go wrong, how much like do we have to adjust? Is there a worry that maybe, if some of these ideas break, do we not have backups, things like this? Was that like a thought in the back of people's minds, or was it unwavering belief that like we have the best ideas at this tournament, even if we lose with them, it doesn't matter?
Well, the thing is, when you go into TI, you're sort of taking a guess with your prep, what you think the meta will be, what the best strats will be, right? We sort of got lucky that it just happened to be ours. Like you play like, I don't know, like 60 scrims before TI or whatever. And you don't know if your strats are working because their strats are bad or your strats are specifically good for stairs. Like look at Group A, like they played Shadow Fiend. The hero looked insanely good. Main stage is like 1 to 10 or something, right?
Yeah.
On the main stage, 1 to 9 or whatever. It's like it played versus Group B's meta and just happened Group A had the wrong one. That's almost purely luck in my opinion. Like you obviously you can put the work in, but you don't know whether you have the right meta or not. And as for if we lost, so I think we're fortunate throughout the year to have a lot of experience and variation in how we lost, so that it gave us an idea of how to fix it. So for example, at both Stockholm and the Dubai LAN, I feel like we're the best team at both of those tournaments, but we broke down mentally in the finals and in the upper bracket versus TSM in Stockholm. Like we lost one game, and then we lost faith in our ideas, or like people just started feeling bad. They felt the pressure of the crowd. So that was something that we had focused on working on a lot. The reason I sort of wish that we lost some more games at this TI so we could see like what our practice and hard work did. I mean, I don't wish that.
Be
I
careful what you wish for.
but it would have been interesting to see that because I was really happy with the group stage. How we lost 4 games in the group stage, but all 4 of those games were actually the first games of the series, and we didn't let those losses affect us at all. And that's like a good sign. It's not the same as losing in the bracket or playoffs or finals or whatever, but it was a really good sign for us that like our mental preparation was did a lot of work there. Because even after any of those losses, we didn't feel bad. We remained objective about it. We sort of said like, oh, this is what we need to adjust, or guys, we have the wrong idea here, and we were able to turn it around and win the second game in the series. So I think even if we lost, we wouldn't lose a lot because we had prepared so much about it, and we had like data points to say that we're ready to lose and still come out winning in the series.
I mean, it would be fair to say you guys prepared for the losses.
We put a lot of time preparing into like how we deal with losses and like the mental side of the game, not dealing with pressure. Like I think a lot of it was, I guess maybe it's like cliche, but like if you go to a therapist about issues, a lot of times they'll teach you about how like it's not about saying like, oh, you can't feel this way or you should avoid these thoughts. It's about like, oh, these thoughts are going to happen. You have to learn to deal with it. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's my experience. And I think it was a lot the same with the losses. Like, guys, these losses are going to happen. You're playing really good teams. They're at TI. These are the best teams in
Yep.
the world. You're going to lose to them, supposedly.
Oh yeah, you never sometimes not, but
And you have to adjust to those losses. And like losing is not inherently bad as long as you take away the good things from it and you
you know,
improve from it, and it helps your tournament run.
I mean, I think you have to lose to be a successful team. Like you're talking about, you have to know how to lose, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
teams don't know how to lose, and it shows in their progress, their ideas, how even the people interact with each other, right? The losses that you experienced to this TI, the outside perspective of looking at the team and seeing how you were reacting to losses, adjusting stuff going in, people not tilting, people still playing better compared to some of those losses previously in the year, which was like very visible. I mean, it's ingrained in my brain the TSM loss at Stockholm. Those games that you guys lost were the worst Tundra games I've seen from a standpoint of like things crumbling and people just crumbling with it.
For sure.
I mean, I just remember there was like the Lich Jug lane, that was like that lane didn't get the kills it needed, and then Skitter just like TP's top and the move doesn't work, and suddenly the map is like terrible. And those games felt over at like 10 minutes. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because this is so uncharacteristic for Tundra. I mean, if you look back at those games from how you guys played at TI, it's like a night and day team. Is that just all mentality? Obviously, you guys brought in a sports psychologist. He's going to help. You guys are going to fix some of these things in terms of choking and whatever. But was there also gameplay elements of like how you approach a loss from, we're going to look at these replays differently. We're going to look at different aspects of them. We're going to force different types of discussion. Were there actual like gameplay differences or maybe not gameplay differences, but like organizational differences?
So for sure, there was an element of how we approached the game from like a gameplay standpoint. I think something that we did, for example, is like we realized that like we shouldn't talk about scrims the same day. So we have time to process them and be more
Mm.
objective about it. I think that carried on to our officials. Like we were good at identifying what was actually important. If you miss kills in lane, like sure, maybe you should say like, oh guys, we need to work on our fundamentals, we need to work on laning. But you're not really going to fix that for the next game. You can't be in a series and be like, guys, just be better at laning. Which I think, I think some teams do actually. I think it's more common. Like it sounds stupid, but I think it happens a lot. Like,
Yeah.
guys, just win your lane.
Wash your face and win your lane.
Yeah, wash your face, win your lane. So I think compared to Stockholm, well, one, we put a lot of work into our foundation elements in Dota, which I think are like laning, communication, and I don't know, like cooperation maybe, like playing off each other. So that was a lot stronger than at the Stockholm Major, where we hadn't been a team for that long. And then there's also like how we talked and adapted to losses. I guess the one loss we had was the one to secret in the upper bracket. We lost game 2 there, and I guess that was the only example really, but it's a good example of like after that loss, I think Skitter was a bit down, but Snay was able to like really bring him back into the game, and we were able to say like, guys, it doesn't matter what happens in this next game, but we just need to execute what we worked on in the boot camp. That game, I think we had some poor communication for our standards,
Mm.
and Skitter was unhappy about that, and we're able to say, guys, we'll just do it better this time because we've worked on it. We know we can do it. We've proved we can do it in past games. So it was very easy to make each other buy in and believe that it will happen this next game, and it did.
The success of teams is also dependent on how teams utilize internal conflict. That a lot of times conflict between players, not necessarily, going to fisticuffs or violence, so to say, but just people pushing each other and getting angry in a sense of why isn't this going better? Why aren't we communicating better? Like, why did this game one go wrong, right? That is basically a conflict that's going to erupt on a team, can erupt on the TI stage, like you're talking about. Game 2 secret, you lose it. There's going to be some conflict in terms of what happened in this game. I think a lot of the success of teams nowadays is dependent on how they treat that conflict and how they turn it into something productive. I was curious if Tundra did things differently than a lot of the teams you've been on in the past in terms of handling when conflict happens and how you treat it and how to turn it into something that ultimately pushes the team forward successfully.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what you said. I think that conflict is necessary and it's not inherently bad on a team. I think when you have anyone trying to pursue excellence, they're going to have like a different idea or version of how they think that should happen. And that will inherently lead to people disagreeing. I think these disagreements, especially when Dota players who have put so many hours into a game, like they just feel something is off. It's really important to dig into that and discover why they feel off or what's causing the conflict and actually push for a resolution. We had a really good start to our bootcamp. but there was some more conflict at the end of it. We actually ended up there's 2 days where we went 0-4 versus EG, and I think in the past the team would have had a mental breakdown, especially since it was EG.
Fair enough.
But we had like a big team talk, and also we did have to cancel a scrim series so we could talk it out. But we did manage to talk it out and come to conclusions and actually resolve it. I think a lot in the past teams I've had, people were way too scared of conflict. I think in particular, like honestly, most of the teams I've been on, because I'm pretty conflict adverse, so I'm sort of how to say, like, tilt the scales that way. But especially like I'm thinking like the C9, TI7, Fnatic, TI8, Neo TI9. I think all those teams were pretty like, oh, something feels off, but and we'll try to like hint at like trying to fix it, but we don't want to straight up say like, guys, we need to change this. Let's sit down, figure out what we need to do to fix this, and actively fix it.
Mhm.
There were attempts of that. I think especially at like Forward Gaming, like me and you, we tried to do that a lot of the time, but it never led to the same sort of resolution that I felt from this Tundra team.
What was different about this one? Was it just a different composition of players? Like, I mean, obviously, some of Dota is like you get lucky with your team comp and it works on levels that you don't even see until you're successful. And then it's like, oh, that was cool. But I mean, there must have been something different this time around that was like a maturity, or I know Snay is also, my opinion of Snay is he's an instigator in some ways. Like he will, if he feels like something's off, he will bring it to the table a lot of times, which can be super useful. I don't know if that was a factor for you guys, or there were other players like that.
The team dynamic between the personal relationships of the players was really good. Like you have like Nine and Skitter who have been friends for like, I don't know, since they're like 14 or something. I don't know. They've been
Really?
I don't know. They've been playing together forever. Like
Huh.
they played on like Spirit or Penta or whatever together. Like they have a lot of history.
Yeah, Penta 9.
Yeah, Penta 9, randomly in pubs ruining your games.
Yeah.
Um when this is something I think actually PPD said, but like when Saxa talks, you shut up and listen. This is how it works. The guy talks, just listen. Because of that bond between everyone, it's very easy to understand that everyone was working towards the same objective. Everyone was putting the work in. And when the feelings and conflicts come from like, oh, we want to solve this, we want to get better, rather than I'm actually mad because you aren't working hard enough, so I'm going to bring something up to try to force you to change what you're doing. I think it's a very different approach to conflict and stuff. I think a lot of the times, like in the past things I had, people are mad that people weren't at a certain level or weren't working hard enough,
Right.
and that like fueled a lot of the conflict that they were having, even if it wasn't directly talked about.
Mhm.
And even if it was directly talked about, it wasn't like people weren't on the same level of engagement and commitment where they had this singular goal they were working towards on the same page about, oh, whether you want to just improve as a team, whether you want to compete for a championship, like what your goals are and how to execute that.
I mean, did you guys ever have to mandate somebody playing pubs or like the
We
more or
we
less
have
scrims?
we have, and we've also like taken, but I think it's like more than any other team, like people are willing to put the work in pubs, and we'll even like have people say, "Guys, I feel like I'm not playing that well. I
Mhm.
want to cancel scrims for like the next day, so just so I can spam 10 pubs." So
Hmm.
like the standard that everyone sets for themselves is very high, which is why it makes it easy to talk to them about, because they aren't half-assing it. They aren't like doing anything. They're putting everything into us. They just need to adjust rather than like it's very hard to tell them, guys, just work harder. Like
Right. What does
I
that
think it
mean?
has to be intrinsic at some point, right? Like you have to some sort of intrinsic motivation.
I mean, speaking on like working harder, did this team have different modes of learning? I know this is something that you've talked about and you're super interested in terms of how do Dota players learn in Dota, right? Because the way a Dota player studies the game and accelerates the meta now is vastly different than if we go back even 3 or 4 years ago, let alone 10. I think the pace is a lot faster. I think the amount people learn is higher. And I think the modes people learn through are better, right? People are better at studying replays. They do it a lot more. You have all these statistics to back stuff up. There's more data as well. Like you have years and years of metas and histories that people remember. They go back and they think, oh, like I remember the OD counters from when I played a TI 5 or 6, right? So you can react faster. But I'm curious if you guys on an individual basis or even a team level did stuff different from a lot of your teams in the past in terms of how people learned, how they studied stuff, how they maybe even how they conveyed information. A lot of times, the way you convey some of these ideas helps somebody understand something better or incorporate it into their gameplay?
I think there was a lot. So one rule that we had on the team was that players were not allowed to talk to each other about other players. So either you had to talk directly to the player about something, or you had to talk to me about it, so I could help you like filter your thoughts.
Mhm.
Or like sometimes players just need to rant, right? Like nothing could be going wrong. They just need to rant to get out of the
Yeah.
system. But I think this rule made it so that when people brought stuff up, it was very specifically oriented towards improvement, or it was like a lot more fleshed out and thought out. Because you can't go to another player and be like, I think you should do this without having an idea of what he should do. Because he'll be like, okay, what do you think I should do? And you're like, oh, right. Whereas if player A goes to player B to complain about player C, he'll just be like, yo, Skitter's not doing this enough, right? And it's not actually productive. Like you're not actually going to come up with a conclusion. You're just sort of ranting and making player B think, yo, Skitter's sort of sucking right now. So
Yeah.
I felt like that rule sort of made it so we're able to that helps you avoid the clicks. It helps you like stop players from like building up resentment. And it actively, in my opinion, it actually helps you think about like when you approach a player, you have to have like some data or some more fleshed out idea. Like you can still come to like, God, I think this is good. Help me figure it out. But then you're working together on something. It encourages like cooperation. It encourages like a lot of the starting builds. Like for example, before the second DBC, I think 33 started building a lot of branches, and it felt really good because I guess I can talk about it now because the patch has changed. But if you have a lot of stats on the core, the regen that the support gives you is very efficient. If you are building +6 stats at the start, when your support solves you, that solve is worth like 500 HP instead of 400 HP, and they can keep solving you, and you're going to get to your items faster and faster. Whereas if you have +2 and they solve you, like you don't feel like, oh, I just solved this hero who's not that strong. So that was a build that was really good in the patch where you could solve the cores. So, but he would have like some data points for it, and even with these ideas, like you would probably go too far. Like I think 33, he would start with one triple branch, and he would bring 2 more branches. So that was probably too much.
What was the number that the team went? This is too far. The 5th branch on top of the wand, or the 4th?
There was some pushback. There was some pushback on that one, but that's how the ideas are, right? Like you have this idea, you go too far with it, or you don't go far enough, and you keep pushing until you find the right number.
Yeah,
I think the right number is like sometimes you buy the 4th branch, especially you got like 3 bounce runes, you just bring that extra stat. Why not? But yeah, the 5th, and you know, it was a good like cooperative process to come to these conclusions through 33's idea.
cool.
And the people were not like super fast at picking it up, but people were like open to the idea, and they were like trying it and saying whether it feels good. And like the reasonings with the solves, like it's not something that 33 came up with right away, right? Like he just plays a pub. Actually, what happened is we played a scrim versus Midone, and he had a wand, a branch, and a Kwang blade. And we're like, this guy is an idiot. These items look so ugly. And then they click on it. Wait, he has +4 stats. That seems pretty good.
Yeah.
And then he just like, why not instead of the coin blade, I buy 2 more branches. I'm +6. I feel like I'm cheating. I have +6 stats. You know, like
it's almost an
ulti
orb.
Hero. Yeah, it's all ulti orb. It's like, oh, I'm cheating now, guys. It feels so good. And then we built off that. And then you would see like, I don't know if it's confirmation bias, but you start to see elements of the Dota like, oh, the region's more efficient on me. I'm better at trading. Plus, the region's more efficient.
I guess the overall point is you guys had a very unique way of itemizing that suited your playstyle. But did that come out of these types of discussions of like the detail-oriented, hey, this item is slightly more efficient than past patch and this one's less efficient? Or are those just a lot of those natural tendency of how you're playing the heroes and a player feel?
No, I think there was a lot of conversations about itemization. I think in particular, 33 is really smart about itemization. He'll put a lot of time and thought into the items he needs, but also like the items that he needs to succeed in the game and what the team needs. Drums was definitely in that conversation. I mean, I also really like drums. I think I've been just buying drums on every single support since like 2017 or so. I don't know. I love this item.
Drum and Veil.
I feel like, yeah, it's so OP. I mean, there's a lot of that on this team where people just they have their strong ideas and they'll just say, "I'm doing this," and people are very good at adapting to support it.
It's interesting. I always thought the item discussions were like a more prominent point for you guys, which I'm sure they were because every team discusses.
They are, but most of the item discussions surround 33, and I don't think he talks about gem much.
Does he like people giving input on his itemizations, or is it more him?
No, he does. He does. It's very collaborative. It's not him like.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, he comes up with a lot of ideas, but I think the reason it's like that is because I mentioned this before, but I think 33 talks to individually to the players the most on the team. Like even though Sneh is captain, like 33 will talk the most about Dota to the players. And it'll be a lot of like small Microsoft item builds or timings or whatever like he thinks is really good. Like he's good at it. He likes talking about it. And
Right.
it helps us a lot.
He's like a glue player in a way. Like he's binding everybody's ideas together. Is that one way to think about it?
I think he like presents them more than binds them together, to be honest. I think binding it together is a lot of my role in the team.
Oh, I see.
It's we tried to do something where like if someone has an idea, like you should try to back it up if you agree with part of it, right? And be like, yo, this is
Right.
this is good. I can see it. I can see this line. And all of a sudden you have like two people you really respect saying, yo, you should try this. And then they'll probably end up trying it.
And so was Tundra more of how far do you think you were on either end of that spectrum in terms of like were players very cerebral about the game? I mean, I consider you very cerebral in terms of obviously very objective and analytical, and I think you have a lot of players on Tundra that fit that. I also think there's always a balance on teams, and I was wondering if you guys ever had issues with that balance or you felt like it went way too far one end or the other, because I think it's very easy for a team to end up too cerebral. Like you end up in this, some of the past teams we've been on, particularly the ones that come to my mind are like the envy teams. Sometimes it gets too theoretical, it's like there's too much discussion. You end up talking about all this stuff and you just talk and talk and you develop all these ideas, but then like nobody can execute it or you're just not good enough to execute it, or people don't understand, they can't convey it to the degree necessary for it to be executed. So did you guys ever fall into that area of like, we have too many ideas and they're too complex, they don't all fit together, and we're losing the feel of these games?
I think for sure you need like you can't go unmoderated Dota theorycraft the entire day. That's one of the reasons like we didn't want to talk about scrims right after we played them, like even wins. Like we just didn't want to fall into that trap. If stuff was important, you would make a note and you talk about it the next day. And sometimes you'd be like, oh, I don't even need to talk about this. We're saved us a lot of time.
Right.
I think there was like I never felt like we had an idea that we couldn't really execute. I think a lot of that is how hard the players work. Like they put in enough work so that they could execute the ideas. And all of course it wasn't like always smooth. Like it would take time to learn certain things, especially like regarding like where we want to be on the map, when we want to fight, how we want to fight, stuff like this. But it always felt like when people came up with ideas, everyone would try their best to enable them, and that's generally what happened. I think overall there's a pretty good mix. Like I think there's like sort of that category in Dota. You have these like very intuitive players, like your Sumeos, who like I mean, if you ask them what they're thinking, like they'll actually be able to tell you and be like, oh, that's really good. But they don't generally say it. They just like feel this way and that's why they're doing it. And there's people who are like very analytical and like very thought focused. And I think you need a mix of both of those because I think they sort of feel each other. The thing about Dota is like no matter how much work you put in, because the nature of the game is like you're playing against 5 other players with 4 other players, you're never going to be right 100% of the time.
Yep.
And when you can approach something from more angles, you just have a higher percent of being correct, which is what you're really aiming for in practice and preparation.
Was there anything you guys were just wrong on? Because obviously we talked a little bit like this run, you guys just dominated. But was there anything where you like tried to do some idea or strategy or hero and you were like convinced it was good, it was broken, and then at some point you're like, all right, this is just wrong. Like let's move on.
So we came into TI, I think we might have had like a 90% win rate in scrims with Earthshaker. We thought this hero was insanely broken.
That's what I thought before TI. I feel extra bad.
I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but I feel like, especially for the teams where the coaches play pubs, when they have to play a role that's not theirs, they'll pick the most imba shit. You know? So when I had to play 4, I would play Earthshaker. That's how you know I was like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not always true. Like, I have some heroes I like on different roles.
Sure.
But I thought the hero was so broken. And then no one picked it during LCQ or had like a really bad win rate. And we're like,
lost a lot.
These teams are just suck. And then we lost 2 out of 3 games on the hero. We're like, let's chill with it for a bit, and we're lucky because we had a lot of strategies come into this TI. We had a lot of heroes that we could fit in there. And I don't know, maybe the hero's still broken. It's very possible the hero was broken at TI, You don't really know.
It's just so funny you name that because I remember talking to people and I thought that hero was like first pick material.
No, we were first picking at
yeah,
scrims.
I was
We're
like,
winning every
he
scrim.
looks so good. Do you understand what happened to him? Do you think it was actually a thing of like, obviously the meta can develop beside
Yeah.
something, right? And then it just dominates it. But
I think he wasn't that good on the runes.
mm,
Like I think in particular, like Liquid, for example, they would only pick fours that were strong on runes
like
for boxing.
like clock and these tusks and
Clockwork,
stuff.
Tuskar, yeah, those are the only Marcy. These are the only
Mhm.
types of heroes that they played.
Yeah, Marcy.
And I think, yeah, I think that was a big part of it. And I'm pretty sure the hero's broken still.
All right, I'm on the
So,
same page.
I don't
I'm on the
actually
same
know.
page. Next tournament, we're gonna see some.
The
Tundra
hero is a
Shaker.
fucking beast.
Yeah, he can do a lot.
We'll see. We'll see.
Big steps that were made at a lot of these TIs, at least from your opinion, that pushed the game forward. I think it'd be cool to go through them. So I think there's like these early years. Obviously, TI1. I feel like TI1 is like people starting to formulate the idea of what a Dota team looks like.
Yeah.
And there was primordial soup before. So I don't know.
didn't actually watch TI1. I don't know if you did.
No, I did not.
Okay, so
all I know is Universe was there as a coach or something. That was the most
he was
connection
like
I
a
have.
sixth player.
Yeah.
It wasn't a coach. It's like you had a 6-man roster.
Oh
or
yeah, he
something,
was like a subber,
even.
yeah, official sub
Yeah.
one. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, and I view it as like the starting point. But
You
going
had, like the cost there and stuff. Epic.
yeah, I mean that's how you know it was low quality. Like cost is- So we go into TI2. And I feel like this is where some stuff starts to get distilled a little bit. The one I'll just say like the one thing that sticks out to me in TIs, and then I'll let you talk about it.
Sure, go for it.
The one thing that stood out to me about TI2 was you have this like mid domination battle. I think that's what everybody focused on, and I think it was the first TI that really highlighted like how much better an individual player can be than the rest of the pool. When we look at that like Dendi, Ferrari type thing,
Ferrari
like
versus Boba.
yeah, of course. Ferrari, the two leaders at that tournament, like nobody I felt like was even close to those guys. Something that was like, all right, you need to have the best players in the world on your team if you want to win these things, which seems like kind of dumb now. I think the version of that, like what does the best player actually mean? I think it started then and it's changed a lot over the years, right? Now it's not just you're the most dominant mechanical player, even though that's where it started. Now the best player in the world can mean 100 different things, right? And that's what I think is cool looking back. Some of these guys adapt and they build the skills and they stay around, but the game gets pushed so far that like Ferrari and Dendi are not the best mids in the world anymore.
Yeah, I really liked what you said about that. I think it's become like less clear what makes the best player in the world now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially at TI1, like people would just point to Dendi. It'd be very clear to them. I mean, like a lot of people put up Nisha, but
Yep.
for example, for us, I don't think Nisha would be better than 9 at all, right? Because it's a lot bit more about like how the players fit into a team and
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
it works that way, right? TI2 for me it was the first tournament that I really saw with like rune control. Like you have Puffy, he'd play these jungle type heroes and he would control all the runes. And it was about also, as you said, the superstars, but it's about how to enable the superstars, right? Like Dendi would have his mid capped, and then he would get the runes, and then he would be like free to make these huge plays, and you're like, oh, Dendi God. And it would look like that too, but a lot of it was like how Navi functions as a team around that. I think the other thing that I learned from that tournament was is about making like this is something I talk a lot about to my team now, and it's something I criticize a lot of like worse teams for, but it's like having intent with your moves. So at that TI, were smokes in the game then?
I don't think so.
Okay, anyways, how they would dive in my head it was like they would smoke around towers and dive it, and it would be like a committed team move. I see a lot of teams even now, like they're trying to take the tier 1 and they will walk up to tier 1 and then go on the enemy heroes there.
Yep.
And I feel like that's forbidden. You know, like how dare you telegraph what you're doing like that? But Navi back then, like I think they had to buff towers because but they would like wrap around the towers and they would kill you, and then they would take the tower.
Right.
And now it's evolved to like either you do that or you just if you're hitting it from the front, you just hit the tower. You don't dive the heroes because they'll be ready for it. They're not going to position poorly enough that you just get free kill in the tower.
Yeah.
So I think like the intent of what they were doing was a lot more organized than other teams. I can't speak as much to IG because I've never really talked to their players or anything.
Sure.
I feel like that's a lot of what I took from. I mean, IG. I think their individual skill and their team fighting is probably way better than Navi's time.
I'm sure the rune control is something you used for Sumail later on, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Give him everything, let him go
I feel
1v5.
like Sumail was just killing everyone. He just got the runes on his own, but yeah.
Oh, that helps.
Like, guys, I need you to check rune. No, he would never say that. He would just like, he wouldn't even say when he solo killed people sometimes. It would just die. I'm like, good job, man. Good job. I'm so glad you're 5 times better than everyone at this tournament, you know?
It's definitely helps. Maybe both those things harken back, you know? Sumail was the mid mechanics of his own era, and it definitely never hurts.
For sure. I mean, the best player is obviously going to be mega mechanically gifted still, right? It's just
Yeah.
they need to do more than that now. And there's a lot of like mechanical gods right now in Dota. I feel like people have gotten really good.
All right, TI3. What was your takeaway from this one?
TI3, I mean, it was like the Alliance rat split pushing.
Navi Alliance,
right?
Navi back at it.
I think
Alliance with the Rat Dota, the IO strategies, the Arcade Shen, Enchantress type stuff, the early roam.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot stands out to me.
There was like 2 things to me. One was that EGM was like the first sort of greedy support, I think, in the world. He would take a lot of farm, and the resource distribution was really good because of that. I think Loda as a carry was actually really good at enabling the supports. So that was something that was really big. I think I saw that a lot from like maybe, probably something to do with playing with EE, because I think EE pioneered a lot of these ideas. And the other thing is I think Alliance were by far the best team at using wave pressure. Like people talk about like split push, but I think people talk about it for us at TI11, but more than any other team by far, they were so far ahead in how they push waves. And I think they were the first team that I saw like they would smoke a lot during daytime, so that smokes were in the game for sure for this. They would smoke a lot at daytime so that when your smoke pops, you had to racing your opponent. Like Alliance that tournament, I think they almost never smoked at night, which I think was really cool for them. Or if they smoked at night, they always had the ward set up or going to a ward. TI3 was super cool. And the Navi team in the finals, I don't actually remember what I took from that. I think everyone was like just so focused on Alliance that year because that was one of the few TIs where the team dominated the entire year coming up to TI, and then they just won it, right?
Yeah, they were beyond.
And I think that was, I think they might have been the highest win rate TI team. Maybe it was Navi at TI1. I think they had like 90% or something. But Alliance, like they were super dominant all of group stage, and I think they dropped 2 games to Navi and maybe 1 game to either DK or someone. I don't know.
I mean, it says a lot about that Navi team that they took it to 5, right?
It does.
Because I think they were out ideaed at that tournament, I think.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to fight against.
It is for sure. I feel like their understanding of how to play finals had to be very good, right? Like they played tier 1 finals, tier 2 finals. They probably had a lot of more experience in that. I think that was like, it was such a good final to watch because you could clearly see the clash of like Navi has this like, maybe they have some mentality edge, but Alliance's Dota ideas were just like, as far as like, he was like the genius of that era, right?
Yeah.
So
it almost makes me think like the way you and Fear played 1 and 4 almost takes me back to the EGM Loda type deal. Like, is it similar? Was it similar ideation?
I'm not too sure exactly what the Alliance dynamic was, but I think for sure that's one of Fear's strengths, right? I think you told me this before, but Fear's superpowers making everyone play at their best.
Yeah.
I feel like he's really good at enabling teammates, and he would see like, oh, sometimes in order to enable me, I just need to sit in a lane and, maybe I'll pressure the tower, maybe I won't, but I feel like I'd never taken more towers on my own as support than on that team because they would put so much pressure somewhere. I just like, creeps. Oh, I might as well hit this tower. Life is good, So
I mean, that's a good feeling, right?
It is a really good feeling.
All right, so we move into TI4. This is the China TI that everybody hates because of the death ball with newbie Vici. For me, this was actually one of the few TIs that I think it was like the first time people tried to really exploit a patch. Like, you have certain things in the patch that people felt were broken. Maybe they weren't even theoretically the most broken again, but they were like things that people said, oh, this is how you're supposed to play it. And they tried to just abuse the hell out of it to like the maximum and just ride or die with it. And it was up for people to try and challenge that idea, which I think Newbie did to a decent extent, right? In terms of like having the outspam, having the team fight, being able to deal with this death ball idea, defend and counter attack it. And I think that was what was cool about that tournament to me is like, sure, you have this death ball, you have this like aura type idea with shaman wards and summons and mess, but you also have this counterplay of like people were aware that that was a dominant part of the meta, and they were actually challenging it with like these gyrocopters with the early flak wave clearing, this type of stuff, right? So for me, that is something where it's like something we would see again and again in a lot of these TIs is someone comes in with a dominant idea. Tundra this year, very clear and dominant wave how they want to play the patch. It's at that point up to other teams to try and break it, or they're just going to win as long as they're executing at a high potential rate.
So I think TI4 was actually a really interesting patch from a Dota format. I think from a Dota standpoint, I think the format didn't do the tournament any favors because newbie was like in the finals
Yeah, it was the
day
weird one.
2 or something. It's actually sort of similar to this TI. I felt like a lot of hype was removed
Hmm.
because of how the tournament was set up. But that TI was interesting to me because I feel like there was a really big clash of Dota styles, and teams were really unique at that tournament, even more so than other TIs, in my opinion. Because if you look at Vinci's path, they beat us at Cloud9, who played a very split push ratty game, and then they beat DK, who was like some I don't really know what DK style it was. They were just better than their opponents, and they had like some weird strats. They played like some Juggernaut support and stuff,
Yeah.
and then they beat EG, who was like all based around Arteezy mid getting a lot of farm and stuff, right? Like Zai was yeah, Arteezy was mid, Mason was carry. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and Zai would be really good at like being at the right place at the right time, checking the runes and enabling Arteezy. So they'd be like a mid four sort of 4 protect 1 type team. And then they beat and then they went up against Newbie, who, as you mentioned, they beat them with outspam and team fight. And it was sort of interesting because you could see how all these styles sort of clashed in like stylistic advantages. To be honest, like I think we probably should have beat Vici that game. Like we beat them one game, we had our momentum, and we failed a level 1 Roshan.
Hmm.
Uh, such is life. um,
Would also
but
be a
like,
pattern that repeats in another point
yeah,
solution.
but like from a style standpoint, I feel like people will understand like split push is really good against Deathball,
Mhm.
and you can see like what happened from that patch still continuing on today. Like this Deathball with a lot of push, it doesn't matter if they can't fight your opponent. They tried to run into newbie, they got slaughtered, right?
Mhm.
Every single time. They got outspammed, they got delayed, they weren't efficient on the map, and eventually the team fight kicked in once the items came,
Yep.
and then they couldn't play. And yeah, no, that's what I learned from that. Like unique team identities and like focusing on what you're good at can be a really big strength.
All right, TI5, you have a little experience with this one. I think it was the first TI where teams started to think about where they wanted to play a lot more and why. Like that was the big thing for me. I think CDEC had a very clear idea in their gameplay about like where they wanted their carry to go and what he was doing there, where they wanted their mid to play and what he was doing, like which jungle areas they wanted to play in and at which times and why they were going there relative to the towers, right? And it was kind of then fell back to you guys to like counteract that because I think they were ahead in that regard. And then I think you guys were the far superior team and you were able to combat it. You understood what they wanted to do. You did some of it back. But to me, that was like the first TI where people really started to push this idea of like, all right, where are you playing and why are you doing it and how is it progressing the game? And I think that's still something that teams are like developing today. That it's not 100% figured out. And obviously, it changes patch to patch. They add in new objectives. But I think it's like one of those things that sounds very simple. And then when you look at it, it becomes very difficult to analyze in terms of like why it works for people or why it doesn't. You can't just copy a team.
Yeah. So I think TI5 was the first TI. I agree with everything you said. Basically, I think you pretty much covered it actually. But here's the first TI where people thought about the tempo of their heroes a lot, like playing like fast Dota, which I really hate that term, so I don't like saying it. But but like you would bring aggressive to the enemy safe lane, and you'd collapse on it, and they just wouldn't be ready.
Yeah.
They would not have the heroes ready. And I think it was also like a clash of styles. Like I think that finals we picked a lot of like gyrocopters and A's and Earthshakers so that we would be ready for when they came. They come there, we kill you. We defend our areas. We actually played CDEC and scrims before that TI. They're one of the
Hmm.
only teams we scrimmed, and we thought they were really bad because we played techies versus them, and aggressive would come bottom, and he would run into 2 mines, and he would just die. I'm like, what is this guy doing? So, but apparently their style is very good. If they just, techies just happen to be the counter to it. I think the other
Yeah.
start TI was like you got to play the best heroes of the patch.
Hmm.
Like Sumail playing Leshrac, Shiki playing Leshrac.
Yeah.
Like, so it's about like you need to have enough work put in that you can play all the good heroes. Like we're the only team at TI who really played like Naga techies, and we had our mid who could play anything, our carry could play anything, offlane like everyone could play anything.
Yeah.
and then we added to that, and it just gave us such a huge advantage in how we could play the game because we're C-Deck, we could play all these heroes that are very like kill you when you come into our area. Whereas versus eHome, I think we would want to play more focused on shutting. Was it eHome? Yeah, I think eHome was a team we get less track to. We want to play more mid centric where Sumail could dominate his lane and take over that way. I mean, Sumail dominated his lane and took over the game in every game,
Right.
but we want to invest a bit more in Sumail, I think,
Yeah,
with
makes
some other
sense.
teams.
I mean, that you mentioned the Leshrac being broken. That was another hero this time around. 6 years later, you go TI11. I think a lot of people felt Leshrac was broken at this tournament, right? He was basically the best Bloodstone abuser that people had, which was a
So
very
far.
yes. That's why I say that people had, because I know now, with these razors and stuff, whatever, it's opening up a bit more. I'm sure we'll see absolutely disgusting things, but at that tournament, at least, there were a lot of teams I talked to that were like, Leshrac is the most broken hero this patch. Like, we are ride and die with this hero, and you guys never played it. This was not even a hero for you touched, and you gave it to Secret in the grand finals, who was a huge Leshrac team. I don't think it was like their identity, right? I don't think they were dependent on it, but it was a huge hero for them. Did you guys feel like Leshrac was broken at this tournament?
I mean, I thought the hero was mega overrated. I think we didn't lose a single scrim versus a hero. We thought the hero was like even when it started to pick up steam, Nine would say like, "Yo, I don't really think the hero's that good." And he said that in the past, and sometimes he's wrong, but this time he happened to be right. But I don't know. I don't think Leshrac was that good that tournament. So
That's why you didn't
I
play
mean,
it.
obviously he could be good. Yeah, that's why we didn't play it, and why we're happy playing against it every game. We ended up it was played so much that we ended up having a lot of different strategies that were good versus a hero.
I mean, do you
Like, both
think
in terms of how we play and our picks.
do you think people were just misunderstanding the heroes' interactions with the big items of that patch? Because I personally, watching a lot of those games, I feel like this Leshrac is super strong, and at some point you run into Wraith Pack Pipe, and like the way the EHP interactions work and stuff, he just sits there and he's pulsing for the whole fight, and nobody dies. And it's like, if
Yeah,
that
he's
hero,
not life stealing very much, right?
yes, I
Because
think people overlook that aspect, which is particular was something that, like, when the Leshrac ran into you guys in particular, it looked the worst at that tournament that it did. One, you were the best team, but two, I feel like you guys also abused that interaction the most.
the thing about Leshrac that he might have still been broken that tournament. Like, I thought he was mega overrated because people are like, they're like degrees of brokenness, right? Because for me, the Leshrac, how he farmed was sort of broken. Like, he had a really strong 6 timing on mid. So, for example, for Liquid, we might have considered banning Leshrac first up. Because, like, if you bring all these heroes to your mid Leshrac, you put a lot of pressure with it, and Liquid's like they were a very strong save one team, so Matu would probably be a good matchup and be winning that lane alone. Then you have a lot of pressure on your map, and it's not easy to play against.
Right.
But I don't know, like, how people talked about the hero, especially on, like, I don't know, like, Reddit or something. Like, it was like, you pick Leshrac, the throne dies.
Right.
And,
It's not
I don't
that
think it was at
simple.
that stage, but the hero definitely had some things that were super annoying about him, like just how he can farm. He just gain mana from doing ancient stacks, and like Bloodstone is still way too cheap. Like,
Sure.
when you buy like some Vanguard mana boots, you're like, oh, I want Bloodstone. You sort of just like right click the items and have it because it's like no gold at all. I don't know.
Okay, the
So
flip side of this, though, which I think is also an interesting thing about a lot of these TIs, is like how teams enable their strategies. Do you think teams didn't push Leshrac as a strategy far enough to overcome some of the stuff people threw at it? Like, do you think there was untapped potential in the hero? That's another way you could look at it, right?
yeah, that's sort of my thing because there's a chance that like if Leshrac wasn't changed, he would be super dominant right now. I mean, for sure he would because Wraith Pack's out. I feel like Leshrac's sort of a one-dimensional pick. Like in what he does. Like, he farms fast and he runs in and does damage. I don't really think the hero does anything else.
No, not
So I'm
really.
not too sure how much you can push this hero, but maybe in terms of like how you can support it with the other heroes. Did they have a single save with it in our grand finals, a secret? I can't quite remember.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, like I don't think they ever enabled this hero to play the Leshrac game. And
Yeah.
maybe if they had done that, they would have won the games and we would have had to reevaluate our relationship with the hero in the draft.
Yeah, it was something I remember watching that grand finals. I was thinking like they don't like to play a lot of saves.
I
And
think they had like a Chen with it, right? They had
yeah,
a Chen game too.
they played the Chen
Yeah,
Bristle game.
which is not like a real save. Like, you have some
Yeah,
healing, but
it was a push
you're already
thing.
itemizing against healing for Leshrac.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like,
I mean, the big ones are like Oracle IO, right? Those are the ones people
yeah,
typically
for
play.
sure.
And
Like, our Leshrac's
yeah,
probably still crazy.
Yeah, but IO was off for people, so interesting.
Honestly, like I was probably a fine hero at TI. Like I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like this TI. I think I did. Like, I just did like some random text interview, but like there are 9 heroes that unpicked at TI. I'm pretty sure we played like 4 of them in scrims, and I thought they were actually really good. So like,
Wait, which 4 were
we just
those? Techies or
yeah, we had a techies
yeah?
idea.
I knew there was one in there.
No, we had an idea. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I think I shouldn't say really good. I thought techies was like decently pickable. We were considering picking him in the finals.
Really? Which game?
Yeah, like, but in our pre-series prep,
Oh,
they
okay,
just happened
okay,
to give
yeah.
us our heroes anyways, so we
Sure.
didn't need to. But I think like Dragon Knight support, it's even better now. I think the
Huh.
4 Dragon is actually really strong. I think the Treant, I mean, it got buffed as well, but I thought Treant was really good. And
Yeah, I thought
I was also
Treant was
sort of
good.
surprised about Wind Ranger. Like the hero, I don't think it was like at an unpicked, unbanned level, but it might just because Seb wasn't playing this TI. Like I talked to people at Valve and they're like, it's really hard to balance the game when you have one player who has like 100% winner on the hero, and the hero's like 30% in the tournament and 40% in pubs.
Yeah.
Because that's Doom, right? Like we
Yeah,
won
yeah.
every game with Doom, but the hero is 49 at TI and had a 46% win rate.
Right.
So how do you balance it? Like, are you gonna target your nerf only at the TI winning team, or like
It's
the hero go
difficult.
30% in pubs? You know?
Yeah. I mean, you have to like nerf what the team was doing with him and buff other stuff and like try and
Yeah,
counteract
which is
it.
like
It's rough.
really hard. I
Yes,
think to be honest.
it's tough. It's tough. All right, TI6, DC Wings, the underdog versus the deity team that everybody thought had no chance of ever losing that tournament, and they did indeed not lose it. I think this TI for me was a lot about. I mean, obviously, this TI is a lot about what Wings brought. That's what people talk about. But I think people overlook the fact that DC actually had mechanisms of doing similar things to that team that really get overlooked because so much of that year is Wings, Wings, Wings dominating everybody. I mean, they did. They're an amazing team, but like DC made it to the finals for a reason. They were a very interesting team. And for me, I think the overlap between those two is where that turns very interesting because people don't consider those teams similar, but I think they had similar mechanisms. And mainly centered around like lane equilibrium and how it affects your moves around the map and your vision and what you want to do, like and where people are farming. For me, that was the first TI where I think Wings thought a lot about who is shoving waves and like why this person is the one doing it on this hero and how that links up to the move that they want to make. Like Wings were the kings of like you smoke to a lane you're shoving in where you know someone's going to be there, or you smoke to meet up between two parallel ideas, right? I think they really like pioneered the strength of this idea, and I think DC also brought this idea of like I remember Moo just Timber saw Darkseer Beastmaster shoving waves in, and Rezo on another hill that can do it, and you have Weehaw on like some Invoker with 4 spirits and random crap, right? You have this Misery Kunkka going around like playing 4 Kunkka, splashing waves. It's like they also had this idea of you getting lanes in, and then it allows you to take the fight you want. And I think that's one of the big reasons those two teams made it to those grand finals that year. Um, it was like this development of why lane equilibrium matters and how people were trying to abuse it more. That was kind of my takeaway.
I really enjoyed listening to that because you were the coach of EG that year, right?
Yes.
So you were doing the direct prep. I coached Secret, which got last place, worst garbage. Didn't even watch a lot of the games. So no, that's yeah, you're right. Like I haven't honestly thought about that DC that much. But I think the thing about that year was that from talking to Saxa was that they put so much into a match with EG that they could not really function for the finals.
Yeah. It was the
So
same for us.
and like yeah,
If we
you
had
guys are
gone,
done after that, right?
yeah, we
like that was an
prepped,
insane series.
we prepped for DC, and if you ask like any of us now, what if we beat Wings if we gone? We were like, we had no prep for them. If we made it to that finals, it was just like, all right, Godspeed, boys. Maybe we win. You know,
Good luck. Yeah, I think it was pretty much the same for them. Like they were just exhausted. They were emotionally like done. But yeah, you know, DC was like think about it. Like they were definitely a team that was like they enjoyed the lane shove meta. They had the players who were really good at that. I like what you said about their picks. I think for me, it was like Wings was the first team. Like you talked about how they had wanted certain heroes to play in certain parts of the map. They're the first team that really focused on playing in like only 2 lanes and controlling the areas between them.
Mhm.
It led to them like being able to basically connect with only one TP to either of their heroes, and just Wings. I feel like their identity was like whenever you thought you saw a hero alone, there's actually 5 of them there,
yeah,
and there's always 5 of them there, and like sometimes like Faith Beyond would just TP by Shadow. And you're like, this guy's an idiot. Why is he here? And you're trying to die Shadow, like, there's a Bat Rider here. Like, why is there a Bat Rider here? I think how they thought about playing more like area control Dota and in 2 lanes was the thing that I took away from that TI. It was very fresh.
Yeah, it was very frustrating to play against.
It was.
I remember when we played them in the upper bracket final. We had a lot of these drafts that were like IO. We had like an IO Sand King anti-mage type thing, which looks weird on paper, but I feel like the idea was, it helps deal with the lane pressure. Like this AM can split push them. You can play the map with IO. You can do some of these things, right? Because they're such a lane focused team. But then somehow you play against this team and they have like Enigma Tidehunter. And they're like out map pressuring you, or like split push. You're like, what is going on? Because they
had like Razor Enigma Tidehunter, right?
I remember that game. They had Razor Enigma Tidehunter, and they're like catching catching us trying to split them up. They're like splitting better than us.
And your lanes are bad.
Yeah.
Why would the Razor? I remember seeing games where Shadow had more CS on Razor than the Battle for Anti-Mage.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like they were just ahead, right? It's not. It's not like a Heroes thing or something. It's just they understood the concepts better at the time, and they used those concepts to destroy people. And it was just impressive to watch. And like everything about that, I think, has bled into a lot of ideas since then that have taken it to new levels, but aren't the same at the fundamental level. Like I don't think people play the way Wings plays anymore on a 1-to-1. It's like what the next levels of those concepts are, and I think that's kind of when people talk about Wings legacy or that TI legacy, that's how I kind of think about it. I think it still shows in the games today, but I don't think it's in the most obvious ways that people think about. Because I think people think about Wings in terms of like, oh, they pick any hero and do anything and blah blah. But they had some very like new ideas that were fundamental to their gameplay that let them do all of those things. Really, like, that's how I think about it. Like they could pick any hero because they had these things going on that were going to beat you unless you challenge those. And the heroes they were picking were just like they could have played anything, which they did.
Except for Punch Techies.
Well, I mean, they played it. Didn't end that too well, but yeah, they played it. I mean, that's a rough strategy to execute lane control at the time, so maybe that's why it didn't work. But I also remember that TI was a team where we talked earlier about like necessary conflict in teams. I remember because I've heard it a billion times that Jack always talks about that team. That team had so many internal conflicts. Like so many times they were yelling at each other and wanting to fight each other, and like
actually fighting each other.
Actually fighting each other.
Yes, on the OG podcast.
Yes, he did.
Like, literal fist fight.
Yeah. So like that's a team where they're a championship team. From the outside, it looks like they're just unstoppable. Everything's good, but I have no doubt that they were a team that also found a way to use those conflicts to turn it into productivity. Like even if they weren't maybe the best at it at the time because they maybe didn't understand it, like I feel like they had to have done it to some degree.
For sure. I think their level of performance was like purely blood, sweat, and tears, right? Like they grew up together.
That's a good way to put it.
They put into work. They went through all the conflict and they pushed past it to get these like insane Dota ideas and push what the game is. I think Wings is probably like one of the most influential teams, right? Like,
yes.
In terms of modern concepts, I think I've taken the most from Wings. Maybe Secret, but like Wings is for sure up there.
And do you think Wings was like? I mean, I remember after that TI, literally every team that forms like we're going to be the next Wings. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure every team knew what that meant. And thinking back, I feel like part of it was definitely people viewed them as like the first hard-working team in a way, like the first super grindy team,
like as a team, especially, right?
Yeah, like they were in there looking at every team fight together, at every replay together, and that was something.
After they won tournaments, like they won Summit, and they went and yelled at each other over the replays.
Yeah. And nobody had seen that before. They're like, what the hell is that? You're supposed to do this? I didn't know. I think that was also an interesting thing. That's like part of their legacy. And you're right. Like every team has copied stuff from that team, whether they realize it or not, I think, at this point. And that's pretty cool. And obviously, you have Faith Beyond and Y still at the top years later, right?
Dude, I wish they did a true sight back then. That would have been crazy.
It would have been.
That would have been so good.
Pay-per-view for sure. I mean,
like the EG one, I think would have been very boring, but the Wings one would have been
yeah, if only. There's probably some lost footage. It'll come out some point.
It's possible.
All right, TI7. This is Liquid's championship run. Newbie back as well. Domination from them, from lower bracket on to grand final. I think this was also kind of the return for me of like the having the most dominant player in the world. I think the first time that happened was like we talked about the early Navi days with Dendi, and then you have Sumail and EG, and then now you have Miracle, right? I think this was like Miracle's TI. This guy was undoubtedly the best player at this tournament. Like the team was built around him. They all played for him to enable him. It was one of the first TI wins, I feel like, where a team was playing for a player so much. And at the same time, still like every individual player was top tier and doing their own thing. And I think that synergy was very cool to see. Is like, buff Miracle and let him destroy people, but at the same time, you still have all these other elements that are coming together in terms of like MC playing push and aura heroes and GH doing coddle IO things that you have to ban one of his three, right? That you just can't get around. They play these like tree lines as well. I don't know if you remember that, but like they were like one of the first teams I saw that was just like always in these tree lines, being super annoying about the waves, just like GH coddle blasting waves from the tree line, Miracle running in with like some random. It was super annoying, and they stalled so many games out that tournament. They were like one of the ultimate stall teams because they almost got eliminated.
Was that the TI where Miracle had the hold with Arc Warden? It might have been a different it might not have been TI, but I just remember like when you said stall, like that's the type of team that Liquid was, right?
Yes, it might have been. They had extremely long games that tournament.
Yeah.
And almost got eliminated. Like that was the series they had with VP, where it went to 3 and they had the like 60-minute game where they held base forever, right? And people argue they should have lost that series, but like they were a stall team for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think VP was probably the best team going into that tournament, right? Like they just underperformed that year. I think they won like all the majors and like
Yeah.
they were looking super ahead. I really liked what you said about that being the first team to really like they were enabling their star player, but they were still playing Dota. They weren't sacrificing anything. And everyone's individual performance is really good that tournament. I think for me, that TI was sort of there are two things about it for me. One, I think they really demonstrated the power of like fighting early. Like every single player would buy wand and raindrops. That was pretty unique about that team at that time. And they would just take these little edges and snowball it really hard. I think maybe some influence from maybe Boba coaching them before the Shanghai major. Like it influenced a lot of how Kuroki thinks about the game. And the other is that I think Miracle was the first. He was playing carry that tournament, right? Like he was supposed to be mid, but Mato always went mid on some toxic green hero. I think he was the first modern carry. Like he would come to these 5-man plays from mid tower, and they would fight 5v4 usually because the other teams wouldn't react properly, but he would still manage to add this aggression in while keeping up in the farm and not ruining his game.
Right.
I think that's what made him like the best carry. I think Miracle as a player, like if you play with him in pubs now, like he's just a hunter. Like he just hunts for so many kills. He runs around for kills. He's really active. I think it was the same then. Like obviously he was playing like some of these anti-mage and stuff, but more than anything, he was joining the fights when it was good for him, and he's joining it in a way that helped his game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you take this mid tower, in 10 minutes, you're gonna have more GPM than if you miss some creeps sitting in the safe lane. So I think
No,
that was the influence of TI7 for me.
That's a really cool point. I think what you said, like he's the first modern carry, I think rings true. I think he really defined like the next 3, maybe even 4 years of like every carry player is watching this guy and trying to learn because he was ahead, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it worked so well with that team because like they invested a lot into him. I mean, I remember playing them at Epicenter and it was like trialing mid with Miracle. Like who the hell is doing this? It's like IO Tusk Sven trialing mid.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But like you saw their idea. It was built around this guy and they understood he was the best in the world. Maybe they didn't even know why. Like, sometimes these guys are just so good. You don't know why. But I think, viewing him as like the first modern carry is a cool way to put it. It's like this guy told people you can do a lot more with the farm that'll help your farm, but also sync with the team. And obviously that team, like you said, wanted to do a lot of the other stuff, right? Like the early game aggression, the early towers that Kuroki is known for, right? It's like early push 5-man deal. If your carry isn't joining that stuff, it falls flat. You get outnumbered and then your game gets crushed. So like maybe both those pieces syncing up was what got that team that ring. All right, TI8, the beginning of the OG dynasty, or whatever we want to call it now. OG LGD, the miracle underdog run. Team loses players, has to pick up some pub stars, make it to the grand finals versus LGD, who I think were like one of the favorites that year.
I think they were
Yeah,
like alone the favorites, honestly.
yeah, maybe it's probably true. I think they had like the best mid on paper at that tournament, right?
Yeah.
They had the best four probably on paper at that tournament. I think everybody at a certain point in there knew they were going to get to finals. So that was a big challenge to overcome. And OG just, I mean, in the end, they smash them and go on to do their legacy. But thinking back to that first TI finals and that run, I feel like OG at this point has been one of the most studied teams of all time. Like we talked about Wings being everybody's, like they wanted to be like Wings. I think OG redefined how you have to view the game in a lot of ways. It wasn't just you have to study us. It's like if you don't study us, you're screwed. And if you do, we might still beat you anyway, as we found out the next year. That is, I think, like the biggest thing that OG asserted is like you can build an idea about the game that's so good that even after a year of people studying it, they came back and destroyed them again. I don't think we've seen a team do that to the degree they did. I think it started at this tournament, and I think it's like you said, it started with they pressed every small advantage and like up the tempo of what these heroes could do in combination. Like the way their cores combine between their supports, you have Jirax flowing between this 2 and 3. You have Seb building aura items on heroes that shouldn't be building them to accelerate how their cores can take early objectives and like open up the map. You have all these small things, the way they buff Ana between the heroes they're playing, and like, you know, Seb is perfectly happy to sacrifice his game to make his carries net worth mean more. Well, at the same time, he's not afraid to play a Nature's Prophet and carry the game himself. Like that team had an immense amount of flexibility and small advantages that synchronized that I think is what made their gameplay so explosive at that tournament and very difficult to beat. Because again, I think those were some of the concepts they were just ahead of people.
I think that TI in particular, I think OG sort of showed the world how you have to function as a team in order to be a championship team. I think by far, like more than the Dota they played, it was their mentality and how they
Mhm.
supported each other, and they were really the team that was like our sum is greater than our parts, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's especially with how good the True Sight was that year. I think that's what a lot of people focused on from them was that
Mhm.
like on paper, like LGD beats them every time. But when you have the team to give you the mental fortitude that your PL can sell an item for buyback and come up with these ideas and feel
Yeah.
confident in doing them, like no one's gonna be like, haha, you sold the item or like anything bad's gonna happen. We saw like the Kiev Major, I guess that was before, but like Anna would be like picked up by his teammates and like make sure that this guy would be able to play his own game. And on top of that, the stuff you mentioned about like how suffocating they would make the map feel and how they played. I think that's the main takeaways. Honestly, I took the most away just from the mental side more than the Dota of that
Mm.
TI. Because I feel like Dota wise, like LGD still played better Dota, but they didn't play a better TI than OG, so OG won it.
Because I always, it's interesting you brought it up like this because I always think of TI9, their run at TI9. I think that is where they really like the Dota quality went up a lot. Obviously, they refined a lot of their ideas. It became more concrete, and that quality went up. But I also think of it in terms of like you're saying that the mental side, like they were, I think they understood it a lot more and what worked for them, and they built
Mhm.
on it. And TI9 was like they just shoved it down people. Like they just shoved it at people, and they're like, deal with the gameplay, and you have to deal with the mentality. And it probably
Yeah, I think
started
for
there.
sure. Like TI9, they were ahead on both mental and Dota, right? I feel like TI8, like Thompson went from not winning a lane at TI8 to winning every single lane at TI9.
No,
And he was like by far the best mid at TI9, right? On top of the other things that OG really showed. I think they also like they were the team that was able to iterate on their own play and improve the most. I think, for example, they understood very well like what the enemy deserved. Like I remember like there was
hmm
a game where Seb was playing offlane Enchantress and he had full control of the top lane. And instead of taking the tower, he just went and ran into the enemy
yep,
jungle. And the carry could not farm at all. And he didn't care about this tower. If they came there, he would just bring one hero and they would get a free kill and then the tower. This tower was already theirs, so they didn't need to control it. I think that was really interesting to watch from them. Like they just kept developing Dota, which is Like they're what you aspire to be after you win TI, right? You want to do the 2-time.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, all their mental side, it's phenomenal because everyone got to watch it in True Sight, so
Yep.
you get to steal from them.
Yeah, they are probably the team that's been stolen from the most at this point.
Yeah.
I also wonder if they're almost the first team to show the value of processes that worked. Like we talked a bit about how people learn or convey ideas, and also the process of iteration, right? If you have ideas that are good, that's not enough because Dota changes, so you have to continually push them and adapt. And I feel like there's no way they win 2 TIs in a row unless they continue to do that and understand how those processes were working, or like, all right, these are the systems we have in place are good. Like,
Mhm.
and we trust in them. And this year we're going to build on them. And by the time we go back, it's going to be destruction, right?
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
will say. Oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead
no,
and
no.
finish.
Go ahead.
Okay. I will say it's a bit weird because even after they won TI8, no one was looking at them before TI9
yeah,
because they just had such a bad year. I don't know if that was like some strategy thing, but it ended up that like no one was really ready for them at TI9 despite them winning TI8.
I mean
Right.
they were
So
underdogs twice.
yeah. so, so even though they did iterate on a lot of stuff and they kept improving, like I feel like no one was ready for them. It sort of reminds me of like for us this year, like we did really well in Stockholm. We won like the EU DPC.
Mhm.
But I saw like power rankings that had us come in last because we had like a bad Arlington. I was like,
Yeah,
and then you had like Entity like top 3 in all the ranking.
right.
They won like the Western Europe qualifiers. The qualified teams weren't in the tournament, you know? Like it was super weird. Like I don't but anyways, it helped us come in as underdogs, and I think it was the same for OG.
Hmm.
And I understand like it's actually a huge advantage.
Oh yeah.
And they never had to play with the target on their back because they just decided to retire after winning everything.
Was that actually a
They
big
still have.
factor for you guys this year? Like when you went into this TI, was the team mentality like nobody expects stuff from us? We're underdogs, or
I
was it
mean,
like an underestimation thing? Just like
I'm not sure because we had actually had conversations where like, it's sort of good. Like no one's gonna look at us as much during TI, but we've always been a really strong scrim team.
mm,
So people tend to look at us even if we're not performing as well in officials, I think,
I see.
if they play us. But we definitely kneel like I mean before Arlington, I think the percentage things for winning, like we're second after LGD.
Hmm.
And after Arlington, we were like not second. So so people
Right.
would look at us a lot less. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think for sure it's way too dramatic. Like after winning the Western Europe TPC and like performing well, relatively well throughout the tournament, like we had a bad tournament with the stand-in and we had one bad major.
Yeah.
I guess maybe people don't know how burnt out we are, so it's like a different perspective. But I think we dropped way far in the rankings of people.
Hmm. I mean, the underdog mentality, or even if you're not a full underdog, but just not having the pressure of being favorites is like
Yeah,
huge,
I
right?
think
I
I
think
think
that's
your
LGD. It's
expectations.
LGD's problem
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
yeah, just not having so much expectations, both from yourself, but also like personally, I feel like it's more pressure when you feel like your teammates expect to do well.
Mm.
You know, because they're sort of even if they don't mean to, they're putting a lot of pressure on you. You don't want to let down your
Yeah.
teammates. Like
Yeah.
I think it's worse than losing. It's like when you know you've let the disappointed parent. So
Papa Aui disappointed.
yeah,
You feel like certain players exude that more? Because I definitely do. Like I seem
like the disappointment
like the team
or
pressure, well,
oh the team
the
pressure.
disappointment too. You bring out the machete, but yeah, in terms of the team pressure they innately put on. Like I think certain players have this aura. It's like you play with them, you're in game with them, and it's like you're looking over your shoulder almost like, oh, if I mess this up, this guy's gonna like think I'm ruining his game or whatever. Even if that's not how that player actually is, like, they just
Yeah,
have
or
that.
it can make you have some like imposter syndrome where like
Ah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna feel like I don't belong because this guy expects so much of me, but I can't do it, and you lose
Mm,
confidence. And it's like some vicious cycle thing.
I
I
mean,
think there probably are like it's hard to talk about, right? Because
sure.
even though I've played for so long, for most of my career, I've actually played with the same subset of players, so I don't have that much experience branching out in that. But I'm sure some players are really good at taking pressure off people, and some players are
Mhm.
gonna pressure the teammates a bit more. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, TI9. I mean, we talked a lot about OG here, but Liquid made it back, right?
Yeah.
after a year hiatus from the grand finals. Not too shabby in that year either. And we talked a lot about OG refining their ideas, the team unity mentality. But I also think it's this TI grand final. If you watch that True Sight and you watch how these two teams interact, it was so much a dichotomy of team unity in terms of like how to achieve team unity through different ways. Because on one side you have this OG who is undoubtedly one of the most unified teams to ever play. Like they have full faith in each other, full trust in the ideas, ride or die, slay together, right? It's literally a voice line. And on the other side you have this Team Liquid that is united behind Kuroki. Like everything is Kuroki is the best captain in the world. Like listen to me guys and we'll win. We've got this far, right? Trust in each other, trust in my ideas of the team. It's like a lightning rod through one guy where I feel like OG is more of this maybe communal thing. There's not like one guy on OG right there. It's a lot of Seb, it's a lot of No Tail. Obviously, it's the two big leaders. They're coaches and leadership, and all of those players do their own part. But it's not like the one fulcrum that Kuroki was for Liquid in that tournament. And maybe that's a representation of True Sight as well. We can't know. But I feel like it was very interesting to see team unity achieved through different ways and how it both got them there, right? Like they both got there with crazy runs and crazy games. And OG was better than them. Some of that was gameplay, some of that was meta. Maybe, also it's like you said, if you run these games a lot of times, right? If you run that grand finals 100 times, I'm sure OG would say they win 100 of them, but in reality, maybe Liquid wins 10 or 20 or 30, whatever it is, right? They won game one with Meepo. But I think that big takeaway from that TI was like people started looking at the idea of team unity and how to build it. And it's not just something you assume is either there or not.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I do think that True Sight probably didn't give that accurate a portrayal because while it's trying to give us some insight, it's also trying to build a storyline.
Yeah, of course.
And the OG storyline was so good, and the only contrast you can really have is, you want to not like a villain, but like
Opposing
an
force.
antagonist, I guess. Yeah, opposing force is probably a better way. I think that especially now that we have seen how it's played out, like how much the now Nigma players, like you can tell they still believe in Croaky,
Yeah.
even though they've gone through some hardships. Like he must be a really good captain, and like they all like, I think everyone really enjoys playing with him. I don't think they would want to play anywhere else because I'm sure they've actually gotten offers. Like especially as they drop down, like these players on that team are
Oh yeah.
very strong. They're still very high ranked in pubs. They look really good. Um, and that doesn't come from nowhere. Like you can't just win one TI and be like, "Yo, we know we had the success here," or like come second in our one, and like we're just gonna follow you to. And I don't think it's like that. So I think Kuro is probably he's become sort of underrated because of how that True Sight storyline was developed. I think he probably does a lot for that team.
I mean, people forget, but this guy has 2 seconds in a first.
Yeah,
and a
no,
four
he
and a
has
fourth
crazy
and some
history.
other stuff in there too. But
Yeah.
like he is one of the most accomplished TI captains of all time across multiple teams with multiple
Yeah.
iterations, right? All right, TI10, the team spirit, very recent here. What are the takeaways?
Not sure how much I can talk about TI10, to be honest.
No, it's
Not because I don't want to say anything, but because I was watching his talent and like how you watch the games is a bit different. And also, I mean, I'll go first. I think you'll actually have more to say on
okay.
this.
Go for it.
So at TI10, what I thought happened was okay, first of all, Spirit's Warden game was really good. Like I didn't feel like Spirit innovated on anything. They just executed at an extremely high level and they had insanely good players. Well, I thought it was pretty much just like collapse, go. And, and you just win his lane, take over the map, start every team fight, kill everyone, end the game with no death somehow. And on the other side, you have the Toro, who is also not dying and farming everything and having really good games, getting all the rampages. And like Toronto Tokyo was also, I didn't notice, but apparently he was a mega big shot caller. And he was like controlling the tempo a lot. Like that TI, like I think, I mean, I just sort of said it where it's just like collapse go, but Toronto Tokyo is probably a bit undervalued in what he did at TI. I think he's probably the hardest mid to catch on the map. I think. Like when he plays puck, he will not die. He had a really good strat that TI. It was you buy Andisk. And like he would always get the map in the right position so that your Toro could farm safely and collapse can initiate. It's like a very like understated influence on the game. Like it's like sort of like what I did at TI5, right? Like like if you watch the games, like, or maybe it's true, but it looks like I didn't do that much, which is probably also true because Sumail just killed everyone. But like, how you influence a map was really crucial for that team. And of course, the supports, I think they by far had the best wording, and they were just good at laning and everything.
I think that's all very accurate. I think the balance in teams between players that set the table and the others that come to feast, to use that analogy, right? Like it's very easy to look at these guys that are 10-0, 12-0 and just be like, oh, they dominated the game. But you can't do that on a team that isn't setting the parameters for that to be successful, right? If people are feeding elsewhere, your lanes are getting shoved in, like you don't have the good vision, you're not controlling the right areas, you're not going to find a single kill on this guy. Doesn't matter how good he's going to blink and hit a spear. And I agree, those aspects of teams are like often underrated because they're not as tangible. Like you can't see a guy's setting the map up as an impact stat, right? Like it's not a KDA. There's no areas of jungle controlled number at the end of the game, or like
I've actually
hard.
tried to talk to stats people about whether that's possible. Like, could you measure how much tower damage or pressure, or like how they shove lanes? And it just doesn't seem like something you can feasibly do without like a huge investment.
Yeah, it's just because there's so much weird interactions that go into those effects, right? It's like it's very difficult. But I agree that it's a very interesting point. And I think Spirit, like you said, my impression was they were just the best team there in terms of individual raw skill, which goes back to another thing we talked about. Like I think they had the best carry at that tournament. I think Ame was an absolute beast, and he was easily like just as good. But I think Yatoro just entered some kind of zone or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, he made the hair sacrifice to the Dota gods.
I guess so. For me, it was like not just about how to be the best players at a tournament, but like become them. That makes sense. Like you can be the highest individual skill player at that tournament, but that doesn't mean you're going to have the best tournament on your role. To me, Yatoro had the best tournament on carry I've ever seen anybody have on a position, and probably collapse on offlane as well, right? And it was beyond just like they were the best players there, right? Because I don't think on paper you can be like Yotaro is better than Ame on a paper.
No,
scale.
even in the VP lineup, right? Like they lost a VP all year.
Yeah. It's just not. It's not like a skill difference. It's this player embracing the moment and letting his skill set shine more, or the team enabling it more, right? That is what stood out about that team that I think kind of flies under the radar. Like it's not just raw skill of being better than everybody else. It was their players playing at a higher level, and I think there were probably a lot of conditions and almost like this power of no fear. Like that team had no fear of anything. It was like it's not just an underdog. It was like there's nothing they can do to us. Like even if we lose, there's nothing. It's just one game at a time, and I think they all elevated each other to some next level anime shit, like whatever you want to call it,
This is a team that Naruto run that
yes, it is,
right?
Yes, like they bleed it in their blood, and it showed, and it pushed them beyond and I think that is honestly something that I don't think a lot of people have studied and maybe even understand. Maybe they don't even understand it because it didn't work this year again, right? And that's what I think was very cool about them. Like it's in their name, team spirit, but like I think there was a lot of intangibles about that team that are very hard to discern, that push them over LGD, who on paper, I think LGD is they're like a more skilled team on average on any given day, right?
I think so, yeah. I think LGD in both the finals they were in, it felt like LGD is a better Dota team, right?
But they didn't elevate. Like they didn't elevate beyond the skills. And I think Spirit is the embodiment of that idea at a TI that is just super cool to see, and why their story is like everybody loves that storyline, right?
Yeah, I think also if you played pubs with, especially with Yotoro, he was like one of the players where I would play a pub with him like a year or two before and be like, this guy's really good. And he was genuinely trying super hard. Like in every pub, I felt like there's no toxicity. He was just trying to win. Like he would look for things. Like you see clips of him now where he's like, guys, snipe the courier so I buy back. He's very focused on winning. And I think he's the thing that I enjoyed the most about Yotoro during that TI was he had like triple everyone's pubs.
Yes, he was up
while playing the most TI games. I actually don't know how it's possible. I think he might have hit 100 pubs during TI.
It was,
which I don't actually understand how you can do that, because
I don't know.
Like, he had way too many pubs played, and like I think that's also something people are taken. Like you're playing these core roles, you need to get those games and have that
Yeah.
effort put in so you can get the reward.
Yeah, I agree. That was a big takeaway. Like that guy was playing pubs in between series and shit. It's like
Yeah,
nobody
I don't
does
know.
this. Maybe that was too extreme, but I agree that was one of the takeaways a lot of people took is like if you don't do this, this guy is, and he's likely gonna
Yeah.
beat you. So yeah, that was just monstrosity. And of course, all of this leads to TI11, culminating in everything we talked about today. What was I mean, you're obviously not gonna tell me, what was Tundra's big, breakthroughs in this that people are going to study, and maybe it's an unknown. Maybe in a year we'll find out. But what is your perspective on Tundra in this TI final?
I think it's sort of hard to talk about without the benefit of hindsight, like we have for all the other TIs. And also, like,
Mm,
my perspective is weird on it because I don't know what other people saw from us. Feel
sure.
like a lot of teams will feel like when Zoo gets patched, we get patched. That's something I've sort of read, but I don't
Mm,
really think that'll happen. Um,
hmm.
I'm not sure. It's we'll see what they show on True Sight, I guess. That's like the big one, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, maybe.
you watch True Sight so you can learn from the teams, and I don't even know what they'll show or if I didn't feel like there's anything compared to the other True Sights during this TI from us. Like when I watch those True Sights, like I feel like, oh, this is something that we should really do as a team. I just feel like maybe we took what the other teams did and we executed it really well, or like we're just a good team this TI.
You think it's like a self-observation issue too? It's like it's hard to look
Yeah,
at
that's what I
yourself,
think. Like
right?
I don't know.
You
Like
just
I think
you did good stuff, but you don't know what it
like
is.
we just like from my perspective, we set out goals in our practice and then we executed those goals and we did that successfully in the focus.
Hmm.
And that was this TI. Like we fixed the mental side. We're good to identify how we want to play, who wants to play where, how we want to farm, how we want to use the map, the type of heroes we all play, how we want to fight, stuff like this. We worked a lot on our fundamentals actually. Like me and Skitter actually watched every single lane we played. Um and I don't know. It worked out. So we'll see what there is. Maybe you can tell me a bit from like a bit more of an outside perspective what it looked like.
Sure, I didn't want to bias you at first, so I mean, so this TI, I think a lot of people were almost dismayed in a way. That was the reaction I got from a lot of viewers and stuff, was like Tundra was almost too mechanical. Like they dominated people too hard, and it was so fundamentally sound that it almost made games unexciting in a way, if that makes sense. Like because you knew they were gonna win. Like you're slowly seeing this progression in the game and the map control and the creep waves coming and like the wraith pack coming out and the lead growing, and you're like, this game's just over. Like there's no way they can lose now, and everybody knew it, and then you won. Like there was never one of the I don't remember a single game like that where it was like Tundra's up 10k and they're gonna win. Like there was maybe one or two, but
We lost a secret in upper
yeah,
bracket.
yeah.
With
But
Troll versus TB.
outside of those anomalies, it
Yeah.
was like you knew they were gonna win, and then they won, and it was like people were, were like, well, it's just a known outcome at this point, like they're gonna win. Everybody, and halfway through the tournament, people are like, yeah, Tundra's gonna win. That's what I heard from everybody. It's like, yeah, Tundra's gonna win, and I was kind of on the fence because I mean, one, I don't like personally like assuming a team is gonna win because I think it can change a lot, like in the last 2 or 3 days of a tournament, right?
Of course,
And
yeah.
I didn't necessarily even see you guys as far ahead at that point as I did by the end of the tournament, or I thought people would like catch up a bit or challenge it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I thought
Um,
especially in the draft, like I thought people would.
yeah, because like I
Like
remember discussing some of these heroes with a lot of people, like the ones that you guys have used a lot. Those like these Marana and Tiny and Hoodwink, like to talk about some of the supports that I thought were doing very specific things for you guys that were very strong. But like, what happens if you ban out a Tiny and a Hoodwink or something, right? Or what
yeah.
happens if you leave this Doom and ban like Brood Visage, and like do some of these things, and it just never really happened, or like maybe people didn't prioritize them, or they had ideas and they didn't work. Maybe you guys were just way too powerful for any of these things. But this was the TI that I felt the most of. Like this team is so fundamentally sound and they're so unfazable from a gameplay and mental side that if you do not come and beat them with something, you will lose. It's not like a maybe we'll outplay them. Like that's how I felt. There was no outplaying Tundra at this TI. You had to outthink them and then go in there with like your own ideas that were equally as strong or better, and then you have a chance of beating them. but you're not just you can't just go in versus team and be like, maybe we'll out team fight them. It won't happen. You guys were basically the most fundamentally consistently strong team I've seen. That was kind of like my big takeaway is like you can actually build an unstoppable machine. And sometimes it's unstoppable, which was cool.
I mean, something I liked was that Envy messaged me after TI and he said, like, Tundra, it looked like all the because me, you, and Envy, we've all worked together at various points a lot, right?
Yeah.
And he said it felt like all the ideas I talked about in the past, like Tundra just executed flawlessly.
Yeah.
And I felt really happy with that and proud of that. But the thing is, like, the reason it worked so well is because I don't know, it just everything was just in sync. Like these ideas, like it's stuff that the players already thought about and liked, and it's really easy to refine stuff when you both are coming from a similar angle, right?
Yeah. I mean, you
Like,
didn't
it's
have
very
me and you didn't have me and Envy on the team. Probably helps. No, I know what you're saying though. I also had that feeling watching. Not that,
Yeah.
not to probably the degree he had that like you were using my ideas I had or anything, because I don't think I was at that point when I played with you a lot either. But I had the sense watching that team that it was like there are so many ideas I've heard you talk about or like want to execute, or even like when you coached my team at a certain point too, right? Like going from that experience was like there's so much of the stuff that I see in this team that is like what Curtis wanted a team to do, and this is the first team that's actually executing it on all cylinders, which was like very cool to see because I think it very rarely happens to that degree
I
in
think
Dota.
all the ideas they also just built on them too, right? I don't know, it's so nice because I played in the dumpster for a while after like TI9.
Mm.
Like you'll play like this COVID and you're just playing some
Well,
NA region.
until you ended up on Arkosh, of course, before
Yeah, that's when it
went uphill.
Oh, it was for sure an uphill struggle. I'll tell you. Anyways, I feel like this was the first team I could just say like all the fundamentals were really good or were built before I got there because the players were really good. Like if I talk about like some games, I'd be like, guys, you need to group up. You need to know who's supposed to group up and kill them more. Like I could say something as simple as that, or we would have key terminology for it. Um,
Mhm.
They would just do it the next game. Like I could see it. It would just fix itself. Like guys,
Mm.
watch the mid lane.
Mhm.
Like it was really nice working with these players.
I guess the flip side is like, are you guys able to reflect on this TI and have takeaways from it that you learned? Like, what did you guys learn from this TI? You go on challenge and you win it. I think it's very easy to just be like, yeah, we were good and the best. Cool. But like you said, you're sitting down and you want to go win it again. You have to iterate. You have to challenge yourselves to iterate, right? Because it's not going to be the same stuff that wins it the second time as this time. I mean, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe Naga will be broken for 3 years, but
For
like,
sure.
yeah. I mean, is there stuff you guys have sat down and looked at and like, this is what we learned from it?
So I think not much on the Dota side, to be honest. I mean, first one point is like there's also a lot of luck going into this, right? Like the heroes
Sure.
that we prepped happened to be good. Like for example, like the POTM, how that came up was I played a pub and the enemy had a 5 POTM who was fighting for his role. He started with a race man in the safe lane, as a 5, and then my offlane went 0 and 8 versus it. I was like, what the hell? And we just looked at it and you read the POTM stats. And he's like, oh, 24 base agi, 10 attack speed, 630 range. This is broken, right? But like if I didn't play that pub, we probably wouldn't have played POTM. So you just like get lucky that something can happen to you,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that guy was trying to play 4. He just got in a fight and he decided to play 5 that game.
Well, so what you're saying is the griefers actually help win TI. That's what you're saying.
I mean, people who grief in pubs when they're actually trying to win, I feel like they're pretty good because their MMR is lower than what it should be, right? Because they're such pieces of shit. So like the MMR reflects like, but you don't know which one you're gonna get. So you still
of course.
I think for us, it's mostly about understanding that we won one tournament, right? Like it happened to be TI. We're fortunate it's TI, but we should not like we built a good machine with good fundamentals, but the input is still our hard work, and we need like we can only expect what our hard work puts in, and that's like the biggest takeaway for us. Like I think it's sort of unfortunate. I mean, it's fortunate for us, but it's also unfortunate that like our ideas were never really tested at this TI. I feel like Secret's also sort of broken in the draft in the finals. Like as you said, like they were trying to iterate, they were trying to steal stuff for us, but they ended up playing stuff that they didn't really know how to play, right? I don't know. Like we picked Naga into their left track. They're like, oh shit, they're beating our counter with the hero it's supposed to beat, and then we beat the Bristleback with the Visage, and then they had to play Nagasiren to steal it from us, so they were like really lost, right?
Yeah.
So nothing really got challenged. I think the team is in a good mental spot where like even instantly after the lane, after the tournament, people are like, yeah, let's make sure we don't think we're good. Like in any given day, like look at EUDBC, like we can lose to any of those teams. We didn't
Right.
beat them because we're superior gods at Dota. We just happened to win this one.
I mean, you worked very, very, very hard.
We need to understand that, like, you need to keep putting in that work if you want to succeed. That's all.
Well, that's the lesson for everybody. Grief some games, learn from it, work really hard, and you'll win TI. It's simple.
That's how it goes.
All right. Well, I have talked to you for much longer than you probably anticipated, but I very much enjoyed the conversation. So I'll wrap it up here. But is there any closing thoughts you have, or anything else you wanted to mention about this year, past years, past teams? I mean, congrats on the championship. I think it's very cool. A lot of people are very cool to see someone win it as a player and a coach as well. You're obviously the first to do that. So another record for the belt.
I think, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the talk. I think if I didn't enjoy it, it wouldn't have gone so long.
I hope so.
That's good.
You weren't just sitting here suffering.
Yeah. It was like tabbing, look at my phone. No, I think Dota's a really cool game, and I love how much stuff you can do with it. I think this upcoming year, like, you're going to see a lot of stylistic clashes coming up that will make the game more interesting. I think we'll be challenged a lot more in terms of like the meta and like how the heroes will interact, and I'm looking forward to that challenge. I hope we can keep delivering, can keep putting that work in to be the best, because right now we've won one tournament. We're not there yet, really, but hopefully we will.
Well, a very humble outlook. Well, thank you for talking to me today. Very much appreciated.
Cheers.
Thanks for everybody who tuned in and watched, and I will cheer you on for a second tournament win. That's what I'll say. Here's Aui2000 looking for his second tournament win.
Do you know what my coaching record is outside of this TI?
It's not good, right? It is not good.
It's 0 wins on the main stage.
Well,
0 series 1.
But what is it now? What is it now?
It's good now.
It's probably above 50, right?
Yeah, because the thing is, we lost so hard on the other teams. That was like best of ones.
Oh, this is only one
Fnatic
match.
Best of one, Secret best of one. That's only one loss.
Yeah, you're probably like 75% now.
That's looking good.
You're up there with the best. Well, next year you can up it even more, and those little best of ones will disappear into the past. But anyway, thank you for coming. I appreciate it, and best of luck next year.
Cheers.